I always imagined my life would settle into a predictable rhythm after nearly 3 decades of marriage. Anna, my wife, a distinguished university lecturer, had dedicated 30 years to educating young minds in the realms of philosophy and ethics. Today, I decided, would be a good day to surprise her with a celebration of her career's anniversary. The irony of what awaited me would soon shatter that notion. The campus was bustling with the mid-semester academic rush as I approached her building. The familiar route to her office, a path I had taken countless times over the years, today felt different. I had planned to take her out for lunch, thinking a break might be a welcome surprise. I reached her office door, adorned with accolades and thank you notes from decades of grateful students. With a smile, I turned the handle, expecting to find her engrossed in her work, surrounded by piles of papers and books. The sight that greeted me, however, was not one of scholarly endeavor but of betrayal so stark it seemed to stop time. Anna was there, yes, but not alone. She sat perched on the edge of her desk, her usual posture of authority abandoned, while a young man, clearly one of her students, was engaged in an act that made my heart race with shock and anger. The door's creak seemed to echo like a gunshot, and they both froze, turning to face me. The student stumbled backwards, his face flushed with embarrassment and fear. Anna's expression morphed from shock to something unreadable. "John," she exclaimed, her voice a mix of alarm and something darker. "This isn't." But words failed her as I stood there, the image before me burning into my memory. My mind raced, a tumult of emotions seizing me. Anger, betrayal, sorrow, all mingled into a toxic cloud that threatened to choke me. "How long, Anna?" My voice sounded distant, even to my ears. "It's not what it looks like, John," she started to explain, hastily straightening her clothes, her voice trembling. I raised a hand to stop her, the finality in my gesture silencing any excuses. "Save it. I don't want to hear your lies." Turning on my heel, I left her office, the sound of her calling my name trailing behind me like the echo of a bad dream. As I walked away, a plan began to form, clear and cold as ice. Anna had tarnished not just our marriage, but the very principles she taught. Revenge, a concept I had read about in her philosophy texts, now pulsed through my veins with a purpose. I would expose her hypocrisy. I would ruin her reputation as she had destroyed our trust. The divorce would be just the start. I would ensure that her career, built on the ideals of virtue and integrity, crumbled under the weight of her deceit. As I stepped out into the sunlight, a new resolve settled over me. Anna's career anniversary would indeed be memorable, but not for the reason she had hoped. This was just the beginning. The truth would come out, and I would be the architect of her undoing. The next morning, the world seemed to shift into a harsher, colder reality. With a night devoid of sleep, I sat at the kitchen table, my coffee untouched, plotting my next steps. The decision had been made, I would not let Anna's betrayal go unchallenged. I needed allies, and I needed evidence. First, I reached out to an old friend, Marcus, who worked as a private investigator. We had met years ago during a local photography workshop and stayed in touch, bonding over our shared interest in uncovering hidden stories, albeit his were usually steeped in reality, mine in aesthetics. "Marcus, I need your help," I said as soon as he answered the phone. The seriousness in my voice set the tone. "What's going on, John? You sound different." "It's Anna. She's been unfaithful. I walked in on her and a student yesterday. I need evidence before I confront her publicly. I want to ensure that when I strike, the blow is decisive." There was a pause on the line. "I'm sorry to hear that, John. Of course, I'll help you. Do you want surveillance on her at the university?" "Yes, and anything else you can dig up about this affair. I need everything, texts, emails, encounters. I want to know how deep this goes. Consider it done. I'll start today and keep you updated." With Marcus set to uncover the depths of Anna's deception, I turned my attention to the legal front. I called Evelyn, a sharp-minded family attorney I knew from my business dealings. Her reputation for being a formidable force in the courtroom was exactly what I needed. "Evelyn, it's John. I need your expertise on a personal matter. I'm filing for divorce. My wife's been unfaithful, and I caught her in the act. Evelyn's response was swift and professional. I'm sorry to hear that, John. We'll need to compile all the evidence you can gather. Infidelity can significantly impact the case, especially in terms of any financial settlements. I'm on it, I replied. I also want to make sure she doesn't walk away with a career after this. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss strategy. Bring everything you have, and we'll map out the best course of action. As I hung up, the final piece of my plan began to form. I would not only leave Anna personally and financially devastated, but professionally ruined as well. Her actions would be laid bare for all her colleagues and students to see. With my network mobilized, I spent the day gathering personal records and documenting everything that could be used in both the court of law and the court of public opinion. Old emails, financial statements, photos, anything that could be construed as evidence of her duplicity. By evening, Marcus sent a message, "Got something you'll want to see." Meet tomorrow? I replied with a terse yes. As darkness fell, I sat alone, surrounded by the remnants of a life I thought I knew. The path forward was clear, fueled by a righteous indignation that hardened my resolve. Anna's deception would soon be exposed, and her fall from grace would be of her own making. Under the grey morning sky, I met Marcus at a quiet cafe far from the usual buzz of the university. He greeted me with a nod, his expression somber as he slid a folder across the table to me. "This is what I've managed to gather so far," he said, his voice low. "There's more coming, but this will get you started." I opened the folder. Inside were photographs and transcripts of text messages that painted a clear picture of Anna's betrayal. My hands trembled slightly as I sifted through the evidence, each piece a confirmation of her deceit. "The guy's name is Tom," Marcus continued, pointing to a photo of a young man with a confident smile. "He's in one of her advanced philosophy classes. From what I've seen, they've been careful, mostly meeting here on campus in her office, but I caught them once at a hotel downtown." I clenched my jaw, my heart pounding with a mixture of anger and sorrow. "Did you get anything on her communications? Emails or texts?" "Yes, there's a lot of back and forth. Anything on her communication? Explicitly incriminating, but definitely inappropriate for a student-teacher relationship. They mention their special sessions and the needing to be close. It's clear there's an emotional connection, not just physical." I nodded, absorbing the sting of each word. "Good work, Marcus. Keep digging. I need everything. We'll keep monitoring her movements. Anything else you need, just say the word." With the evidence in hand, I headed to my meeting with Evelyn, my mind racing with the possibilities of how to use this information. Evelyn's office was stark and professional, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling within me. As I laid out the evidence on her desk, Evelyn examined each item with a critical eye. "This is a good start, John. It's enough to file for divorce on the grounds of infidelity, which could sway the financial settlements in your favor." "What about her job?" I asked, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I want the university to know what she's done." Evelyn paused, then looked up at me. "That's trickier. If you make this public, it could backfire. You need to be absolutely sure before we take that step. Defamation is a serious charge if you can't back up your claims." "I understand," I said, feeling the weight of her words. "But I don't want her to just walk away from this unscathed." Evelyn nodded. "Let's start with the divorce proceedings. I'll draft the paperwork. As for the university, let's hold off until we have irrefutable evidence that can't be dismissed." I agreed, knowing she was right, but it did little to quell my desire for retribution. As I left her office, the plan to expose Anna's betrayal still burned brightly within me, but now tempered with the caution needed to navigate the potential legal minefield ahead. That evening, I returned home, the silence of the house echoing around me. I pored over the evidence again, each message, each secret meeting detailed before me. My resolve hardened. Anna would face the consequences of her actions, not just in our personal life, but in all aspects of her existence. The storm was gathering, and soon it would break, washing away the facade she had maintained for so long. The air was crisp and biting as I approached the university, a manila envelope heavy in my hand. Inside were the final pieces of evidence Marcus had gathered, irrefutable and damning. My heart hammered with a mix of dread and determination. Today would be the day everything came to light. I had arranged to meet Anna in her office under the guise of discussing our impending divorce. As I walked the familiar halls, the faces of unsuspecting students blurred past, their mundane concerns a stark contrast to the storm about to erupt. Anna was waiting, her face composed, perhaps anticipating a different kind of meeting. The sight of her, so poised, fueled my resolve. "John, I wasn't sure you'd want to meet here," she started, her voice cautious. "I thought it fitting," I said, my voice steady as I placed the envelope on her desk. "After all, this is where it all began, isn't it?" Confusion flickered across her face as she eyed the envelope. "What's this?" "Evidence, Anna. Of everything." My tone was cold, final. I watched as she slowly opened the envelope, her hands trembling slightly. As she sifted through the photographs and printed messages, her face drained of color. "John, I can explain." "Save it," I cut her off, my anger peaking. "I've heard enough of your lies." I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. "I'm not just divorcing you, Anna. I'm exposing you. To the university, to your colleagues, to the world. Everyone will know what you've done." Her eyes widened with fear. "You wouldn't." Her eyes widened with fear. "Career, my reputation." "Are finished," I said flatly. "Just like us." Before she could respond, I turned and walked out, leaving her with her ruin. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings and public fallout. As the news broke, Anna's reputation crumbled. The university suspended her pending a full investigation, her colleagues distanced themselves, and her once bright career evaporated into scandal. Marcus kept me updated on the sidelines, but another piece of the puzzle was falling into place. Tom, the student, unaware of the storm he had helped unleash, reached out to me, desperate and unaware of my full involvement. "Mr. Smith, I didn't know who else to talk to," Tom stammered over the phone. "Why come to me?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "I'm scared. This has all gotten out of hand. I didn't expect any of this to happen. I think there's something you should know about Anna." His words caught my attention. "Go on." "It wasn't just me. There were others. Anna manipulated us, played on our fears and ambitions. I have names, emails, proofs." This revelation was a final twist I hadn't anticipated. "Meet me tomorrow. Bring everything." Sitting across from Tom the next day, I reviewed the new evidence he provided. It painted a picture of manipulation far deeper and more insidious than I had imagined. Anna wasn't just unfaithful, she was predatory. With this new information, my revenge felt hollow. I had aimed to punish her for her betrayal, but in doing so, had exposed a much larger deceit. My feelings of vindication were replaced by a somber realization of the breadth of her manipulation. In the end, Anna lost more than just her marriage and career. She lost her dignity, her scholarly respect, and any semblance of integrity. As for me, I walked away from the wreckage, my taste for revenge soured by the depth of her deceit. Our paths would never cross again, the hatred of betrayal ensured that. The battle was over, but the victory was Pyrrhic. As I moved on with my life, the scars remained, a constant reminder of the cost of trusting too deeply and the price of vengeance.